What is happening in China at the moment is actually really confusing. Let's go back in time. Now, in October, they had the 20th National Congress, and Xi Jinping basically said the zero COVID policy is not going to change. Then in November, they supposedly made a 10 or 20 point plan to bring China out of the COVID policy. Then at the end of November, we had the white paper movement when people said enough is enough, we don't want the PCR tests, etc., etc. Then after that, we get a sudden increase of COVID cases after the lockdown and no more testing in China. It's confusing. So I'm going to bring two sides to the argument here. The first side is from Chinese state media. I do believe this is from New China, where they say what is going to happen. Take a look at this.
Everyone, I'm Martina Fuchs. As the year comes to an end, I spoke to Swiss private bank Pictet and the chief strategist of its asset management division about his growth outlook for China and the main drivers and challenges. Take a listen.
We believe that 2023 is going to be still a difficult year, slightly better than 2022. Inflation will come down a little bit, but there will be economic stagnation in developed economies. We believe that the Chinese economy will improve in 2023. We think that growth of 5% is possible and achievable thanks to the reopening of the economy.
Now, on Chinese state media, when you do see some kind of foreigner who's an expert, sometimes they just have a staged actor. So I Googled this guy and I got onto his LinkedIn account, and Luso whatever, Chief whatever, is on Walton-on-Thames, England, United Kingdom. So you could say that what he's speaking about is, well, there we go. But now let's go to the other side and more in depth, and something which probably makes a lot more sense to us. Now, I know some people don't like the BBC, and some people would say they lie, they manipulate the truth. Well, all media, even Chinese state media, will do the same. But this article actually makes sense to me, and I wanted to share it with you. It's a little bit long, it's about 3.5 minutes long, but it gives you a rundown of more recent times of what's happening in China with some experts related to COVID, medicine, etc. Take a look at this one.
Is over, and the virus is surging.
This reversal of policy came very suddenly, and people were not prepared for it. And we're seeing fairly chaotic responses with the very, very rapid spread of Omicron.
China's chief epidemiologist is warning this is the first of 3 waves. One doctor quoted by state media calls this a pandemic tsunami. And establishing how big this outbreak isn't easy. Official statistics note 16 COVID deaths in the last month, but there's skepticism about these figures. Today, China confirmed that only deaths caused by pneumonia and respiratory failure after contracting COVID would be classified as COVID deaths, even though COVID may contribute to many other deaths. Then, look at the far right of this chart. The number of confirmed cases is falling, but that's because mass testing in China stopped recently, which means no one's quite sure what's happening with the virus.
Even the Chinese authorities admit that they don't know what the numbers are. The National Health Commission, which is China's top health body, has had to admit that there's been a breakdown in the testing and reporting systems across China.
There are, though, ways that we can build up a picture of this surge. The BBC's team in Beijing filmed this queue outside a health clinic and filmed this queue outside a pharmacy. The sign says no cold and flu tablets, no thermometers, and no testing kits. Social media is another potential source of information. By cross-referencing with other images posted online, the BBC has verified this video, which shows overcrowding at a children's hospital in northern China. We're seeing lots of other videos too, appearing to show hospitals under pressure, but these are difficult to verify.
There are restrictions on Chinese social media platforms that stop people from being able to post freely, and therefore it can be difficult to get an accurate assessment of what's happening on the ground.
Social media is one source, news agencies are another. Reuters reports that in Beijing, the local emergency hotline has been overwhelmed by over 30,000 calls per day. Reuters also filmed these queues of vehicles outside a crematorium, though it's not clear if this is caused by COVID. Or in Guangzhou, a crematorium worker told the AFP news agency it's 3 or 4 times busier than in previous years. As well as news agencies, we can follow official statements too, such as this in Beijing.
Medical supplies in the city and treatment resources are under increasing pressure due to the rapid spread of the epidemic and the continuously rising number of patients with fever.
On state TV, we're seeing a door-to-door vaccination drive targeting elderly people. And there are updates from local government too. For example, one district of Changsha says people are reminded not to go to the hospital unless it's necessary. Or there's the city of Guiyang, where we're told the number of visits to emergency and fever clinics continues to rise. And all of this adds further strain to the health service.
There's a very serious problem with overcrowding in terms of the pressure on emergency rooms and pressure on hospital wards. And this is still at an early stage in the nationwide exit wave.
One example of this pressure comes from the BBC's Kerry Allen, who reports that in Guangzhou, retired medical workers have returned as there's a short...
Sometimes we actually forget about people, the people who are suffering, the people who are going through this in their daily life. I remember seeing pictures of Manhattan maybe like a year and a half ago, where everything in New York City basically was on a lockdown. Now you look at it now and we seem to forget that. And this is basically what's happening in a lot of China. I actually had a meeting for today, actually, and I was informed that the poor gentleman I was meant to have a meeting with online has got COVID. This was a Chinese gentleman obviously in China. So we forget, but we shouldn't, and this is what's happening, and we must pray for the people, and we hope that the situation is resolved very shortly indeed. That's what we hope. Now, a little bit earlier today, I made a video related to the 6 hydro or the mega hydro dams in China. Now, I'm going to show that in a minute, but first of all, let me show you this picture here. This is one of the new dams, and this is the world's second largest hydropower dam, is now fully operational. The Bahitan Dam in China, 18 gigawatts of new renewable green energy, quote unquote. But this picture, I would say, is a little bit of a Photoshop because of the drought of this year, 2022. And I would say a lot of these dams are in the area where they did have a severe drought, and no way could they open the sluice gates. Possibly they could, but let's have a look at the full video of all these dams in China, basically along the Yangtze River. that near enough is it for me for today. Thank you so much for your time as always. The like, subscribe and share. Even though I'm losing possibly 1,000 subscribers per month at the moment, I really don't know why, and I'm trying to work out and understand what I am actually doing wrong. Even though I got like 30,000 subscribers, why isn't YouTube actually pushing any of my videos? Is it boring? Is it ineffective? Are there no advertisements coming in the way? I don't know. But thanks for all the people who do on a daily basis come to see my channel. I really do appreciate your time for that. And on Christmas Day, what's happening the 25th of December 2022? Hopefully, Soapy, Tokyo, Pickle and myself will be doing a live stream downstairs of our Christmas presents when we're going to open them. It's possibly going to be 8 a.m. New York City time on the 25th because it'll be 8 p.m. our time. I know in some countries they open their Christmas presents on Christmas Eve just before midnight or whatever. In England, you usually open them, you could say, well, any time during Christmas Day. But we're going to open ours, usually we do it in the evening about 8 o'clock, so that's going to be 8 a.m. New York City time. Please do join us for a bit of fun and games with that. We don't know what's going to happen, especially with all the Christmas wrapping paper. That's it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye for now.